All right, so here we have some ACT stuff, and these are towards the end of an ACT test, and they're up there as far as difficulty goes to the average kid. I'm not gonna lie, they are. 55 is an Algebra 2 standard. It says if I is root negative 1, and what is the following? Uh, I guess you could actually, think of it like this. You could think, because, half of you don't remember things, but you could think root negative 1 plus root negative 1 squared, there's nothing wrong with this, plus root negative 1 cubed, all right? What's it sitting over here? A root of negative 1 cubed plus a root of negative 1 to the fourth plus a root of negative 1 to the fifth. Now, let's see what happens if I just work us on this square right here. That's a root of negative 1 times a root of negative 1. A radical times itself is the content inside. So what do I got so far? I got root negative 1 plus a negative 1. Now I'm looking at this guy right here. This is a root of negative 1 cubed, which would be a root of negative 1 times a root of negative 1 squared. Cool, because I already know what this is. I did this right here. So this is root negative 1 times negative 1, which is a negative root of negative 1. So plus a negative root of negative 1. And you'll notice that these pieces right there cancel out. One of them's positive, one of them's negative. So I got a negative 1 up top. All right, moving on. Start looking at some of the stuff in the bottom. Here is I cubed again, which I've already done. It's a negative root negative 1. Here's I to the fourth, which I haven't done. I to the fourth would be a root of negative 1 times a root of negative 1 times a root of negative 1 times a root of negative 1, which is going to be negative 1 times negative 1, which is 1. So plus 1. And then there's I to the fifth. I to the fifth is going to be root negative 1 times I to the fourth, which was 1. So root negative 1. And again, you'll see these cancel out, and this is what we're left with. We're left with negative 1 over 1, which is negative 1. That is the longest way possible to do that problem. The absolute longest way. Now, I have asked you guys to remember this. I is the root negative 1. I squared is 1. Sorry, negative 1. I cubed is negative I. And I to the fourth is 1. If you'd memorize those things, this would have been a whole lot quicker. It would have been a whole lot quicker. Whatever. 58 is the next one. I would look for, because you guys have not seen trig like you needed to, I'd look for contextual clues here, like that's 0, 3. So be thinking about contextual clues. There's your 3. And the other big thing you have is you have a TI-84 in front of you. Use your TI-84. Obviously, use that thing. You'll have an 84 in front of you. Get rid of that. So your TI-84 by default is in radian mode, which is where you need it to be. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to graph some of these things, and I'm going to play with the window at the same time. So I notice that my graph goes up to 3 and down to 3, and I don't actually need the whole graph, but if this is pi over 2 on the right, then this has to be negative pi over 2 on the left. So I'm going to play with my T84. I'm going to go to my window settings. I'm going to set my X-min to be negative pi over 2, and I hope you're paying attention to this. This could be the difference between you getting that scholarship you want and you not getting a scholarship. And I'm going to set my Y-min to be negative 3 and my Y-max to be 3. The reason I do that is because a zoom 10 or zoom 6, your standard zoom, just doesn't make much sense on a trig function. So now my window's the way I want it. I'm just going to type in some functions. I already know the answer, by the way. The answer is the last one. I have too much stuff open. It's this one down here. That's the answer. But say I don't know that. I'm you. I don't know. I haven't done a whole lot of trig in my life. So we have 3 cosines x over 3, which is not going to be the same graph. Not even close. We also have 3 cosines x over 2. So let's change that to x over 2. Again, not going to be the same graph. If you want to know what trig functions look like, you take me your senior year. If you have no desire to know any of this stuff, then you don't take me your senior year. That's how that works. If you want upper level math, that's what I teach. Here she is. So, I'm glancing back at my question. See that rise, fall right there in the middle? That's it, right there. So the correct choice for this one was, as I was saying, choice K. Matches the graph. And again, the big deal here was, it was the TI-84 was in radian mode. The windows were adjusted to match the dimensions of this graph. And now we're moving forward with our lives. 56. Boy, 56, man. The first thing, most kids would look at these equations and not know what they are. When you talk about the juniors, I dare say 60% of the juniors have no idea what either equation represents. All right, here's the deal. X plus 2y being less than or equal to 6 is obviously a line. It's doing that to me. Love it. New laptop still doesn't work right. That was greater than equal to. Plus or minus symbol. You know what? We're just going to do this. Not going to mess with it. That's a line. I'm going to make it look like y equals mx plus b. We're going to leave 2y on the right, or left, sorry. We're going to take away x. We're going to divide by 2. And that's what I'm looking for. This is a downhill line. It has an equality. There's an equal to symbol. It's solid. All right. Big deal right there. And we see the less than, so shade below. So look at all those little clues that come just from writing that equation. That is going to take G and H out of the equation. G and H are gone because G is dashed, H is shaded above. So now it's at least a 1 in 3 possibility, right? Yes, no? All right. You have this other equation here, which is 3x squared greater than 12 minus 3y squared. And this is obviously a circle. It's obviously a circle because that's the only thing left to shade. You see that there, it's dashed. That kind of stinks. And you're going to have to do the math on this. A TI-84 won't do it. You still have to do math to do it in a TI-84, so there's things you have to do, and I'm just sorry about that. It is what it is. We're going to put the 3x squared and the 3y squared on the same side. And I wish I could tell you, I wish I knew what y'all knew. This is a geometry standard. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals the radius squared. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide my 3 out. This makes this x squared plus y squared greater than 4. And this can be thought of as x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared greater than 4. This gives me hk, which is my center, and this is r squared. So the center of the circle is at 0, 0, which doesn't do me a lick of good, but the radius is 2. So what I have to ask myself is which one of these circles is most likely to have a radius of 2? And it's probably this one. This one has downhill. Oh, by the way, we couldn't be J, could we? Downhill line. It's going to have to be that one. At least I think it's going to be that one. Is it? No. No. Look at that plus 3. You see that plus 3 right there? If this has a radius of 2, and that's a plus 3, then the line is initially above the circle, because it would be crossing at 3. It'd be at 0, 3. And if this was 0, 3, having a radius of 2 would make no sense. The choice is K. It is K all day long. Rough question for most kids. 57. What do we got in 57? 57 doesn't look like it's one of them fun ones. Let A, B, and C, and D be real numbers. Given that AC is 1, B plus C over D is undefined, and AB times C is D, which the following must be true. So here's that big thing right there. B plus C over D is undefined. So I would make a guess that D is 0, because you can't divide by 0. That's what I would guess. I know that AB times C is D, so ABC has to equal 0. I know that AC is 1, so let me rearrange this. AC times B is still 0, and this is 1. So 1 times B must be 0. This is a legit zero product property. That's all it is. B is 0. Plain and simple. It's not A is 0. Can't be. It's B is 0. All right, that one's done. Moving forward. More trick. The figure below shows a flying kite. At a certain moment, the kite string forms an angle of elevation of 75 degrees from point A on the ground. At the same moment, the angle of elevation of the kite at point B, 240 feet on a level ground, is 45 degrees. What is the length in feet of the string? Be pretty cool if you all knew the trick you needed to know, now wouldn't it? But you don't. I know this was taught to y'all last year, but this is not a right triangle. You cannot use SOHCAHTOA. You can't do it. And I don't know of a shortcut way around it either. I wish there was for you, but there's not. Now, what do they want from us in this picture? They want this. One thing I can do is I can figure out how many degrees in a triangle. This angle's got to be 180 minus 75 minus 45. It's 105 minus 45. It's got to be a 60-degree angle. Now, here's the question. Is there enough information to not use trig? this 60-degree angle is opposite 240. So we got 60 degrees and the opposite side is 240. The string is opposite of 45. Therefore, the string has to be less than 240. So 240 is not an option. Everything else is. That didn't do me much good, did it? That didn't do a lick of good. Bummer. That stinks. So it looks to me like we're going to have to use something called law of sines, which is a 10th grade math standard. It says the sine of angle A is to side A as the sine of angle B is to side B. So if I'm at 60 degrees, side A is 240. So the sine of 60 is to 240 as the sine of 45 is to this unknown length here, which I'll just call x. Now, the reality is juniors are supposed to know certain things and you just haven't been taught it. But juniors are supposed to know the sine of 60 degrees without a calculator. They are supposed to know the sine of 45 without a calculator. If you don't know it, it's mostly your fault, but whatever. You put your calculator in degree mode, and you just push some buttons. So sine of 60 is that. That's the same as root 3 over 2, if I'm thinking right. Should be. Sine of 45 is going to be like 0.7 something, which happens to be the same as root 2 over 2. Those are the numbers I'm going to use. You can use the decimals if you want. But anyways, I'm just going to plug some stuff in and go with it. So I know sine of 60 is going to be root 3 over 2. You're going to be mad at me because I'm using all these nice numbers. Root 3 over 2 over 240 is equal to root 2 over 2 to x. I'm going to use a technique here called cross multiplication. X times the root 3 over 2 must equal 240 times root 2 over 2. Half of 240 is 120, so 120 roots of 2. And I still have x times root 3 over 2. The idea here is to fix this by multiplying by its reciprocal. And if I do it to one side, I do it to the other. But anyways, cancel, cancel, cancel. So x is 120 root 2 times 2 over root 3. This is kind of a funny looking answer here. That's 240 root 2 over root 3. And then we clean up this radical by multiplying the top and bottom by root 3. And we get 240 root 6. I probably lost most of y'all because of the numbers. Root 3 times root 3 is 3. And 240 over 3 is 80. Choice B. I know how the vast majority of you feel about it when we introduce these, I guess, complex numbers to you. 60 is the last question on this ACT test, but notice it's not a hard question. A lot of times they do that. The last question is not that bad, and that is the way it tends to be. A lot of kids usually just guess on the last one, but usually the last question is kind of easy. So look for that. Don't just say, oh, I'm in the 40s and I'm going to start guessing. Usually the last question is kind of easy. If a publisher charges $15 for the first copy of a book that is ordered and $12 for each additional copy, which of the following expressions represents the cost of Y books? This is legit. Y equals mx plus b. M is going to be the cost of additional copies. B, which is usually your y-intercept, is going to be the initial cost. That's all there is to it. So I'm thinking y equals a 12 each additional copy plus an initial cost of 15. So that's pretty simple. That's going to have to be G. There's your ACT. Hope you enjoyed it.